2024 and 2025, we have witnessed perhaps the greatest 2 years of distance running the world has ever seen. Beatrice Chebet has been on a tear. Her achievements in themselves are worthy of being in consideration for the greatest seasons of all time. Double gold in the 5 and 10,000 metres at the Olympics, double gold over 5 and 10,000 at the World Championships, and world records in both events, becoming the first woman to break the 14 and 29-minute barriers in the process. But the way she won all those medals and broke all those records had never been seen before. She repeatedly ran the final lap of 5,000-metre races in 57 seconds, closing speed that even some elite men would struggle to match, hinting at the possibility that we might be watching a woman capable of breaking every distance running world record from the 1,500 metres to the marathon. All this left us looking forward with excitement to what she might do in 2026. But on the 1st of January, just 10 days before she was due to defend her world cross-country title in Tallahassee, Florida, she dropped her bombshell. In a post on Instagram, she wrote that she would be taking 2026 off, with the unsaid meaning between the lines being that she was pregnant, a fact that was later confirmed in multiple news stories. Now, it's important to say first and foremost that Chebet should be applauded for her decision. She is unquestionably the best distance runner in the world and would have had a lot of pressure to delay having a family to maximise her earnings and achievements. That she has chosen to put all that on hold to fulfil what must be to her a more important ambition in having a family is a powerful gesture. And there is a precedent. Her friend and role model Faith Kipyegon did exactly the same thing back in 2018 and returned to set 5 world records and win 2 further Olympic golds, putting herself in the conversation as greatest of all time. In this video then, we will look over Chebet's achievements to date and use Kipyegon's achievements pre- and post-maternity leave to frame what might be possible for Chebet once she returns to competition in 2027, as well as looking at how the distance running landscape will change and who might step up to fill the void left by Chebet. While it is in the last 2 years that Chebet has really shot to stardom, she has always been on the road to distance running success. Aged just 19, she was already running in Diamond League meets, recording impressive times of 8:49 in Doha and 14:46 in London. By 2021, she had improved those times to 8:27 and 14:34 and looked set to make the Olympics that year, but underperformed at the Kenyan trials, finishing a disappointing 5th and failing to make the team. That disappointment spurred her on to unprecedented success in 2022. She made the team easily for the World Championships in Eugene, Oregon, where she won the silver medal behind Ethiopian Gadaf Tsegay. A month later at the Commonwealth Games, she went one better, winning gold in the 5,000 metre ahead of home favourite Eilish McColgan, before finishing off the year by beating the best runners in the world in the Diamond League final in Zurich. This established her as a star in Kenya, and meant she didn't even have to run the trials for World Champs in 2023, choosing to run in the 1,500 metres at Nationals instead, and giving us a first glimpse of her talents there, as she won easily in the absence of Kipyegon. At World Champs, she was pipped in a kick by Kipyegon herself and Safan Hassan, marking another turning point. Perhaps upset by this result, she levelled up going into 2024, developing devastating closing speed and ensuring she would never be beaten in a 5 or 10,000 metre race that mattered again. In 2024, she was unstoppable. She started the year by defending her world cross-country title in dominant fashion, leading a Kenyan sweep of the first 4 places, and then went on to run possibly the most shocking result of her career at the Prefontaine Classic. Tsegay signalled her intentions of going after the world record in the 10,000 metres early on, and Chebet jumped on the train, tracking Tsegay throughout before breaking clear in the closing stages. Her final time was breathtaking. She ran 28:54 to become the first woman to ever break the 29-minute barrier on a track. That performance took Chebet from contender to favourite for the Paris Olympics, and she duly delivered, winning the 10,000 metres in a sprint finish with Italian Nadia Battacletti, and getting the better of Kipyegon herself in one of the best 5,000 metre performances of all time. As the world record holder over 1,500 metres, Kipyegon was expected to be able to get the better of Chebet in a kick, but Chebet turned the narrative on its head with the best last kilometre of a 5,000 metre race ever. She ran that last kilometre in 2:33, following Kipyegon as she hit out for home in the last lap, before passing her friend with ease in the home straight, running the last 400 metres in 57.5 to win her second gold of the Games. And if that wasn't enough, Chebet went on to close out the year by becoming the first woman to break the 14-minute barrier for 5K, running 13:54 on the roads in Barcelona on New Year's Eve, bringing down the curtain on objectively the best ever year in women's distance running. Topping that in 2025 was going to be near on impossible. But even if it not being an Olympic year meant she couldn't in terms of pure achievements, she certainly stepped up again in the level of her performance. In the early season Diamond Leagues, she underlined the fact that she was now in another stratosphere to her competitors in terms of closing speed, starting out by kicking down to a 26.6 second last 200 metres to win the 5,000 metres at the Xiamen meet. A 26 second last 400 metres in a sub 14:30 race was phenomenal, far quicker than anything we'd ever seen previously, and Chebet was only just getting started. She ran the second fastest 3,000 metre ever in Rabat, easily beating the pace lights, which had been set at 8:15, with a blazing fast last kilometre, leaving us wondering if Wang Zhongsha's 30-year-old world record might have even gone down had the pace been set faster. In Rome, it was a similar story. She was clearly in 5,000 metre world record shape, but held back to run a 14:03, with the pace light set at 14:15, amid speculation that her sponsor Nike had asked her to wait until their home meet, the Prefontaine Classic, to break the world record and 14-minute barrier on the track there instead. And when that meet rolled around, she delivered in style. The 13:58 she ran was 4 seconds slower than her own world record on the roads, but the context of that race made it one of the greatest performances of all time. In hot conditions, with temperatures of 25 degrees and bright sun in the middle of the day, the pacer set out at 14-minute pace, but dropped out before even reaching the 2-kilometre mark. Chebet was left to shoulder the pace alone, but with the added problem of having the now second and third fastest women of all time on her shoulder, in Tsegay and Agnes and Getich. But Chebet judged it perfectly. She maintained a pace just a touch slower than 14 flat, knowing she needed to retain enough energy to outkick her rivals while keeping the record in sight. Soldiering on through the heat, she reached the bell needing a 61-second last lap to break 14, with the commentators claiming the record was hanging in the balance. But it was never in doubt. Chebet can now close in 60 seconds in her sleep, and waited all the way until 200 metres to go before blasting away from her rivals as if they were standing still. Her last 200 was covered in 28.8 seconds, in perfect symmetry with Kipyegon, who closed in the same time for another 1,500 metre world record later in the day. Which set up the World Championships in Tokyo nicely. Chebet was now the overwhelming favourite for the 10,000 metres, but Kipyegon's 1,500 metre heroics meant there was many commentators saying Kipyegon was the favourite for the 5,000 metres, if it was a slow race. Now, I made a video at the time saying I saw no situation where Kipyegon could beat Chebet. My prediction was as follows. That closing speed means that for me, there is no way Chebet loses this race. It might sound illogical given that Kipyegon is the 1,500 metre world record holder, but Chebet has improved to the point where her last 200 metres is now faster than Kipyegon's, whatever the race situation. And Chebet proved me right in style. After winning the 10,000 metres in disgustingly hot and humid conditions with another close for the ages, running 27.2 for the final 200 metres, Chebet once again put Kipyegon and the rest to the sword in the 5,000. As if to prove the commentators wrong, She let the race go slow, meandering along at much slower than 15-minute pace, before once again going past Kipyegon like she was standing still in the home straight, clocking 57.6 for the final lap. It was a performance of such finality, proving beyond doubt that she is the greatest distance runner of this, or arguably any, generation. So it was fitting that it would be her final race before pregnancy. And Faith Kipyegon herself gives a lot of hope that this is not the end for Beatrice Chebet. She had time out of the sport in 2018 to give birth to her daughter, yet returned to become better than ever over subsequent years. And the parallels between the two women are clear to see. Kipyegon had also only reached the very top level over the previous 2 seasons, winning the 1500 metres at the Olympics in 2016 and then at the World Championships in 2017. And her daughter was born in June during her off year, which will likely be very similar for Chebet's baby. This gave Kipyegon a year following the birth to recover before lining up for her first race back at the pre-classic, which she won in 3:59. I'm sure Nike will already be lining up the pre-classic 2027 for Chebet's return, and we could therefore see some more fitting symmetry there. Kipyegon did have some hiccups on her return, being beaten by Sifan Hassan at the 2019 World Champs in Doha, despite running a then PB of 3:54. But by 2021, she was unquestionably once again the best in the world, lowering her PB to 3:51 in Monaco and defending her Olympic crown in Tokyo. From then on, she was imperious, winning every global championship 1500 metre crown available, adding a 5000 metre world championship title in 2023, and even setting world records in the 1500, mile and 5000 metres in the space of a few short months that year. As she approaches her 32nd birthday, she is now as good as ever, having lowered her 1500 metre world record still further to 3:48.68 in 2025. All of this shows us that pregnancy does not have to mean a backward step in performance for Chebet. There is every chance that she can become better than ever when she returns in 2027. As she has already won almost everything there is to win over the 5 and 10,000 metres, it takes a lot of imagination to think how she could still achieve more. But the abilities she has shown over the last 2 years suggest there are some very interesting challenges she could go on to push for. The first would be to go after the 1500 metre world record. I'm not sure she would do this while Kipyegon is still in the game out of respect for her friend, but there is the chance Kipyegon might have moved to the roads by the time she returns, freeing her up for a crack at the event. And her potential is clear to see. Her first attempt at chasing a time in the 1500 metres came at the Silesia Diamond League in 2025, and while it did result in her only defeat in a meaningful race that season, she performed admirably in a very difficult situation. Gadaft Tsegay, perhaps mindful of the threat Chebet posed, sent the pacers out through 800 metres in a suicidal 1:59. Chebet, unused to the fast start, was caught behind, having to chase Tsegay solo while the Ethiopian was able to draft behind the pacemakers. Once they dropped out, Chebet did begin to close, but ran out of road and had to settle for second, in a still very impressive time of 3:54, considering she had run the whole race solo. In a race set up for her then, Chebet should have the tools necessary to threaten Kipyegon's 3:48. If she is paced through 800 metres in 2:03 or 2:04, she can likely run a 46-second split from 800 to 1,100 metres, then close the last lap in 58 to sneak under the record. Only time will tell, but if she does seriously attempt it, I think that mark could go down, and everything longer than that should be a formality. The 3,000 metre record is long overdue, and she could put her own 5,000 metre record into the stratosphere, perhaps even bringing it down towards the 13:40 mark. With such range, the other big track goal which she could achieve, given a favourable schedule, would be the 1,500, 5,000, 10,000 metre triple at a global championships. This looks impossible at the 2028 LA Olympics, due to the 1,500 metre semi-final and 10,000 metre final being scheduled in the same session. but could be something for her to consider in the 2029 World Championships. With her ability, doing what Sifan Hassan was unable to do at that famous Tokyo Olympics might be possible. And finally, we have the question of what Chebet could achieve on the roads. While I don't want to see her go to the roads anytime soon, she brings far too much excitement on the track. There is one record waiting there that needs Chebet's intervention. Ruth Chepngetit's marathon world record looms over athletics, tainting the image of the sport with her subsequent doping ban somehow not being enough to see the record overturned. The risk for distance running is that it stands untouched for years, throwing doubt on the achievements of all marathon runners by association. Breaking it seems nigh on impossible and would require a special athlete. But Chebet could be that athlete. Her ability to run sub 14 minutes solo on the track might translate into something close to the 2:10 mark in the marathon, given that in the marathon, she would be allowed to be paced the whole way. And at 25 years old, time is on her side, with plenty of opportunity to further improve her aerobic capacity in the future. The future for Chebet post her return, then, is bright. But how about the immediate future of women's distance running? Chebet's absence will leave a gaping void, and the race to fill that gap will be very interesting. Despite Kenya's dominance of the distance events at the Tokyo World Championships, there is no guarantee that she will be succeeded by one of her countrywomen. The best young talent in the world is now in Ethiopia, with Medina Isa and Berke Hailem having run 14:16 and 14:23 for 5k already, while still teenagers. But even more exciting for the events is that Chebet's successor in 2026 might not even come from East Africa at all. And that is because Chebet's biggest challenger in championship races over the last 2 years has been Italian Nadia Battecletti. While she has not run as fast as Tsegai and Agnes Ngetic over 5 and 10k, when peaking at championships, she has looked a cut above those two, pushing even Chebet close in the 10k in Paris and Tokyo with impressive closing speed. While she is the same age as Chebet, she has only been running full-time for the last 2 years, having completed her degree in 2023, and her improvement in that time has been astronomical. She went from 16th in the 5,000 metre at the 2023 World Championships to competing for the win in both the 5 and 10,000 metres in 2024 and 2025. Her kick is now lethal, as she also closed the last 200 metres of the Tokyo 10k in 27 seconds, and her father and coach has suggested that she was in 14 flat 5k and 29-minute flat 10k shape for those championships. The stage is set then for an epic battle when Chebet returns in 2027. She will face a race against time to regain the level to triumph over her European rival, and we might just be treated to a rerun of Kipyegon's return in 2019, when her gutsy performance in Doha wasn't quite enough to beat Dutch champion Hassan. Whatever happens when Chebet does step back on the track, we can be sure her success will return at some point. Aged just 25 years old, she has already made herself a distance running legend. And her courageous decision to step away from the sport when she is at the pinnacle marks her down as a true inspiration. Watching her return in 2027 and fight to regain her position at the top is going to be enthralling viewing, as we follow her journey towards establishing herself as arguably the greatest distance runner of all time. Let me know in the comments below how you think Chebet stacks up in the pantheon of great distance runners, what you can see her doing in future, and who you think might succeed her as the top 5 and 10k runner of 2026. And if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to keep up to date with all the developments in the world of track. Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you in the next one.